mercenaries by the Libyan government to attack its own people. And for the first time ever, the Security Council has unanimously referred an egregious human rights situation to the International Criminal Court. As President Obama said today, when a leader's only means of staying in power is to use mass violence against its own people, he has lost the legitimacy to rule and needs to do what is right for his country by leaving now.
The resolution refers Libya to the International Criminal Court for investigation, a provision some delegations initially opposed.
We deplore the use of force, which is totally unacceptable. We earnestly hope that calm and stability are restored at the earliest without any further violence.
The resolution had the support of Libya's own delegation to the UN, a fact that swayed some delegations to vote for it.
The Tripoli regime no longer has any credibility. It goes without saying that this resolution represents moral support for our people faced with the regime firing on them.
This is just the second time that the Security Council has asked the International Criminal Court to investigate a country, and the first time that the request had the unanimous support of the Council. Ambassadors said they wanted to send a clear, swift, and strong message to Muammar Gaddafi and his inner circle, but it remains to be seen just who is listening. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, the United Nations.
The Emir of the Gulf state of Qatar, from where we're now broadcasting, spoken about the Libyan uprising, calling on Gaddafi to stop the bloodshed. And while ruling out an intervention by other Arab nations, he urged the entire world to take a strong stance.
I believe when it comes to Europe and the whole world, against the background of revolutions taking place in the Arab world, we need clear-cut positions from the start. It is not acceptable for them to wait to see on whose side the balance will tip, then adopt a position. And what is feared in the Arab world that if certain dictatorship regimes manage to contain the situation, Europe will side with those regimes. Therefore, we always look forward to swift positions to be adopted. With regards to Libya and other Arab states seeing changes, I see that humanitarian aids and medical supplies must be dispatched. We must find access passages, whether through seaports or airports, especially that Europe can control air transport movements.
Let's join Lauren Taylor, my colleague in London in our European Broadcasting Centre. And Lauren, tales of daring-do in the desert from British Special Forces.
Yes, that's right. The British military has taken action to remove 150 citizens from Libya. There'd been some criticism of the British government's failure to act quickly enough to rescue people working there. But a mission in Libyan territory has now taken place without the agreement of Tripoli. And the operation involved 2 British Air Force C-130 transport planes. They took off from Malta and flew to remote desert airfields south of the eastern port city of Benghazi. 150 British workers had been rounded up at that meeting point in advance by a party of heavily armed SAS soldiers. It's reported that they had sneaked into the country on commercial flights. Once loaded, the planes returned the workers to Malta's Valletta airport. The whole operation took 4.5 hours. Harry Smith reports.
British oil workers arriving in Malta after being rescued in a military operation shrouded in secrecy. Details are still sketchy, but it's believed 2 British Air Force transport planes entered Libyan airspace without permission. The British refused to reveal exact locations, but it's believed an airfield at Nafura was used to rescue 150 stranded oil workers, who were then flown to safety in Malta. The British government released these pictures of workers leaving the aircraft in Malta.
It was scheduled to be 65, but in the end there was about 130 got on.
Really?
Yeah. And we were sitting in the aisles. It's very cramped, but we were just glad to be out of there and getting on the flight.
The British, along with other governments, have also sent warships to Tripoli and Benghazi in attempts to bring out their citizens. But it's thought more rescue missions will be needed to airlift hundreds more oil workers stranded in the south.
As I said, there's still people in the desert, so I can't say too much. I can't say where I came from, etc., etc. Because the guys down there are still doing an excellent job. to gather all the guys together and get them evacuated.
The Foreign Office here in London has come in for severe criticism for what's perceived to be its slow response to the plight of Britons trapped in Libya. An official I spoke to a short time ago declined to comment on this latest rescue mission, but said they remain deeply concerned for the plight of other Britons trapped in remote areas of Libya. Harry Smith, Al Jazeera, London.
Well, the flood of Chinese workers out of Libya has continued with the arrival of 2 ships in the Greek port of Heraklion. 4,000 arrived early on Sunday aboard the ships which had sailed from Benghazi. The passengers were given food and water as they arrived and then bused to local hotels. The Chinese government has chartered 4 ferries and booked 11 hotels in the town to accommodate its citizens who are leaving Libya. A total of 20,000 Chinese have left already. And more people fleeing the violence in Libya have arrived in Malta. The Italian ferry Toscana has docked in Valletta, carrying more than 1,700 people from 14 countries, including Thailand, Vietnam and Brazil. Now, the resignation of Libya's man on the United Nations Human Rights Council attracted a lot of coverage on Friday, but it left many wondering why on earth Libya was actually a member, considering its record in that area. Nick Spicer has been investigating.
Last Friday was perhaps the first time Libyan diplomats here really stood up for human rights when they stepped down from their jobs representing the Libyan government. One of them stunned delegates to the Human Rights Council by saying the Libyan delegation here supported the revolution back home and so now represented only the Libyan people. The Human Rights Council has 47 members. It was set up in 2006 to replace the Commission on Human Rights, long plagued by embarrassing log jams where governments abusing their own people would protect each other from criticism. Libya was elected to the new council by the UN General Assembly last year. A large majority of countries voting in a secret ballot supported its candidacy, despite the opposition of leading human rights groups. But if you want a representative council, admitting such countries may be the price to pay.
The big question for whoever established the council is whether you exclude countries that are not upholding human rights, which means you exclude most of the countries on this planet, or you try to include them within the process of promoting and protecting human rights, more in hope than conviction that by being part of it, they will promote and protect.
The council is new in another respect. The United States has decided to join it after a long boycott. President Barack Obama thought it would be a good venue to push forward American views on human rights, to re-engage with the world, and now to seek international consensus on Libya, according to the U.S. ambassador here.
The council is showing that it is actually able to deal with crises in real time and to do our job of holding the perpetrators of mass human rights violations accountable and speaking together in condemnation. And that has not always been the case.
The American Secretary of State Hillary Clinton joins colleagues from Russia, the UK, and other countries here on Monday. The council last week decided to look at suspending Libya and unanimously ordered an international investigation into possible crimes against humanity during the crackdown there, showing that this crisis has made more than just the Libyan diplomats stand up and do their job properly. So too, perhaps, has the council itself. Nick Spicer, Al Jazeera, Geneva.
Britain's Foreign Secretary has said it's time for Muammar Gaddafi to step down. William Hague said his removal would be the best hope for the country. He also confirmed the UK has withdrawn diplomatic immunity for Gaddafi and his family. It comes as Hague's Italian counterpart said the Libyan leader's downfall was inevitable. Well, here's what Hague had to say. We have here a country descending into civil war with atrocious scenes of killing of protesters and a government actually making war on its own people. So, of course, it's time for Colonel Gaddafi to go. That is the best hope for Libya. That's all from London for the moment. Back to Doha.
Well, the unrest is continuing in many parts of the Middle East. At least 2 people have been shot dead by police in Oman on Sunday, according to witnesses in the city Sahar. Tear gas was allegedly used on the demonstrators in this industrial area. Witnesses say at least 1,000 people have gathered demanding political reform. The military has moved in now to secure the area. The president of Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, has had a meeting of his army generals, talking to them as he tries to shore up his presidency, and he vowed to defend the unity of the country, quotes, to the last drop of blood. AlJazeera's Hashem Akhabara is in the Yemen capital, Sana'a.
Remaining defiant, President Saleh telling his army officers that Yemen is in danger of disintegration and that they should fight for its unity.
We have vowed to defend the republican system, the unity and safety of the republic till the last drop of our blood, and this vow stands now. There is an attempt to split the country into north and south.
The president was referring to his arch rivals, secessionists asking the south to break away from the north, and the Houthi rebels in their ongoing battle against the government for greater autonomy in their region.
This isn't the first time that the president has met his army generals since the start of the crisis in the country. But his statements tell a great deal about his confusion, and it's clear that he has been inspired by Gaddafi's speeches.
But thousands of young Yemenis who have taken to the streets across the country have totally different demands. The departure of the regime. Demands waved off by Saleh's ruling party as illegitimate.
It won't be an Egyptian-style change. It won't be a Tunisian type of change. But unfortunately, if it goes to become very close to what's happening now in Libya, then I don't by any means rule out the possibility of an international and regional intervention here.
For these protesters, the movement has come a long way, inspired many Yemenis, and made sacrifices that calls for dialogue by the government are too late. But if the president is determined to cling to power, the opposition and the anti-government protesters say they will muster more men here in the capital and across the country to put an end to what they describe as an autocratic regime. Hashim Al-Barra, AlJazeera, Sana'a.
Egypt's former Interior Minister Habib al-Adli is to appear before a criminal court accused of money laundering. Hearing set for March the 5th. If the case goes ahead, he will be the first person from ousted President Hosni Mubarak's regime to face charges. He was arrested on February the 17th. And the Egyptian Stock Exchange is said to reopen on Tuesday. It's been shut since January the 27th. Good to have you with us. This is Al Jazeera, the News Hour, and these are our top stories. The Tunisian Prime Minister Mohamed Ghannouchi has just